Tragic Ferrari crash horror. Video game pioneer Vince Zampella, co-creator of Call of Duty and head of Battlefield 6, dies in fiery Ferrari crash. Vince Zampella, the influential video game developer, best known for co-creating the Call of Duty franchise and later leading Battlefield 6, has died in a car crash in Southern California at the age of 55. Authorities and industry sources confirmed. Now let's go deeper and see what's really happening in this story.
Anyone who has ever dropped into a massive virtual war zone or, felt that immediate visceral thrill of a perfectly scripted first-person shooter moment, you have lived within the creative space that was defined by Vince Zampella. The video game world recently lost a giant, a true architect of modern gaming, and the impact of his career is, it's frankly staggering. We are diving into the life, the work, and the sometimes controversial but always groundbreaking legacy of the co-creator of franchises like Call of Duty, Titanfall, and Apex Legends. Zampella passed away at the age of 55, and our mission today is to take the sources documenting this sudden loss and distill exactly why he's being placed on the Mount Rushmore of gaming innovators. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's a truly immense and shocking loss, especially when you think about the timing and the circumstances. When you list those titles, from 2003's revolutionary Call of Duty all the way to the global phenomenon that is Apex Legends, you realize Zampella wasn't just working in gaming. He was consistently redefining the most popular, most competitive genres out there. The fact that the entire industry is just pausing to reflect, it really speaks volumes about the magnitude of what he achieved in just, a little over 2 decades.
And we do have to, sort of out of necessity, acknowledge the tragic circumstances first, as reported by the authorities. Zampella died following a horrific car crash on a Los Angeles highway this past Sunday. The initial details that came out are just harrowing. The sources specify that the vehicle involved was a Ferrari. It reportedly exited a tunnel, veered off the road for reasons that are still unknown, and struck a concrete barrier. And upon impact, the car became fully engulfed in flames.
Yeah, fully engulfed. And there were 2 people involved in the crash. The California Highway Patrol, CHP, they confirmed 1 passenger was ejected from the vehicle while the driver was actually trapped inside. Both individuals died at the scene. And this is a really crucial point for context here. The CHP has stated publicly that the exact cause is still under investigation. It is still officially unclear whether Zampella was the driver of the vehicle or what the identity of the second person was.
Right, the investigation is ongoing, but the confirmation of the loss itself was immediate, and you could feel it across the entire industry. Electronic Arts EA, the parent company of Respawn Entertainment, which Zampella co-founded, they released an official statement pretty quickly.
They did. The EA spokesperson described it as an unimaginable loss, extending deep condolences. But the moment that statement was out, the focus, it just immediately and very naturally shifted to his body of work. Because this is a story of profound creative output, one that redefined what a first-person shooter could be, not just once, but multiple times over.
Absolutely. So let's rewind to where this legacy really exploded. 2003. This is when Zampella, working with his longtime collaborators Jason West and Grant Collier, co-created the original Call of Duty. Now, we can list the sales figures, over 500 million copies worldwide, making it a massive pillar for Activision's business. But the real insight is what that game did strategically to the market.
Exactly. You have to remember what the FPS landscape looked like in the early 2000s. It was dominated by titles like Medal of Honor and, older PC shooters. The games were slower. They relied on finding health packs, and they often felt technically heavy. Zampella and his team at Infinity Ward, which became the core COD studio, they made a fundamental design break.
So what specifically was that design choice? What let Call of Duty just break away from the rest of the pack?
Pacing and accessibility. They focused so intensely on these cinematic scripted moments that just pulled the player through this high-intensity experience. But the real game changer was the introduction of automatic health regeneration. If you look at the sources, this seemingly small tweak fundamentally changed the contract with the player.
Right. You no longer had to stop, scramble for a medic pack, or painstakingly manage a health bar.
Exactly. You could take cover, breathe for a second, and then immediately jump right back into the fight.
Which is just brilliant. It encourages this relentless, aggressive forward movement. It totally transforms the experience from methodical survival into just high-speed action.
Precisely. And that philosophy, fast-paced, player-driven, minimizing the friction between the player and the fun, that became the DNA of every major success Zampella would have. including the later installments that introduced persistent online progression, which kept players invested in the grind and completely reshaped the multiplayer landscape for the next 2 decades.
That initial success was monumental, but Zampella's career, well, it was anything but smooth. It includes a massive high-stakes professional shift that shook the gaming industry to its core, and it really forced a conversation about developer freedom versus publisher control.
Yeah, we have to talk about the pivotal dispute of 2010.
Yeah.
Zampella and Jason West were just abruptly fired from Activision. This wasn't just some HR issue. This was a war over the intellectual property they had created. The sources from that era show a high-profile, incredibly contentious legal dispute that was all about bonus payments, creative control, and who truly owned the future of Call of Duty.
And it wasn't settled until 2012. The sheer visibility of that case meant every single developer in the world was watching. It put a huge spotlight on how much creative freedom top talent actually holds when they're working under these massive publishing houses.
It absolutely did. And the resolution, an out-of-court settlement, essentially freed Zampella to write his next chapter. And crucially, that chapter was not retirement, it was a rebirth. And it showed his relentless competitive streak. He moves to Electronic Arts, Activision's fiercest rival, and immediately co-founds Respawn Entertainment.
The message there was so clear. The innovation wasn't tied to the Call of Duty name or the publisher. It resided in Zampella's creative team and their willingness to just keep pushing boundaries.
And this is where the innovation shifted gears and frankly became even more exciting from a pure mechanical standpoint. From Respawn, we got 2 defining franchises that once again reshaped the market. Titanfall in 2014, and then the explosive Battle Royale hit, Apex Legends, in 2019.
Let's focus on Titanfall for just a moment, because that game was a pure distillation of Zampella's whole philosophy of fast movement. It introduced that revolutionary pilot and Titan dynamic. How did that blend of giant mechs and incredibly agile infantry redefine movement in an FPS?
It broke the map design. Before Titanfall, shooters were mostly two-dimensional. You moved along the ground. Titanfall added a seamless third dimension. The pilots could wall run, they could double jump, they could chain all these maneuvers together. The feeling of fluid traversal was it was unlike anything else. You had this almost acrobatic, highly stylized movement system for the infantry, which then combined with the immense power of calling in a giant mechanized Titan. Yeah. It was Zampella taking that core idea of a fast-paced, player-driven experience and applying it to both verticality and heavy combat.
The sources definitely confirm that technical ambition, but it was Apex Legends that became the undisputed cultural and commercial phenomenon. In a market that was already saturated by Fortnite and PUBG, what specific Zampella-led innovation let Apex capture that global battle royale audience?
It wasn't just one thing, but there were 2 specific mechanical changes that really elevated the genre. First, the movement fluidity from Titanfall was refined and applied perfectly to the battle royale map. Sliding down hills, that smooth traversal, it kept the pacing incredibly high. Second, and this is the true stroke of genius, the ping system.
The ping system. It sounds so simple, but it is absolutely genius.
It is. In those Battle Royale games, communication requires a mic, which immediately creates a barrier. Apex introduced a context-sensitive ping wheel. You could quickly and seamlessly communicate critical information. Enemy here, loot this, going this way with just a tap of a button. It made clear, rapid communication available even to players without headsets or who just don't want to talk. It solved a massive social and competitive problem in the genre.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ping system became so successful that it was adopted in some form by nearly every competitor that followed. It just shows Zampella's core focus, solving problems for the player. He didn't just build games, he built better ways for players to interact with games.
Exactly. And let's not overlook his professional comeback after the Activision split. The surprising detail in the sources is that Zampella later took a leadership role working on Battlefield 6. To go from co-creating Call of Duty, getting fired, forming a rival studio, and then working on the other head-to-head competitor, it just speaks volumes about his confidence and the industry's recognition that he possessed a unique, genre-defining Midas touch.
That willingness to challenge himself and to challenge others is really the central theme we see in the tributes that are flooding the industry right now. It's not just about the games, it's about the philosophy. We've seen journalists and creators weighing in on his lasting impact.
Jeff Cayley, who knows the industry inside and out, he called Zampella a dear friend and a visionary executive, which really underscores the respect he commanded at the highest corporate levels. But that respect filtered all the way down to the community. You have popular creators like the YouTuber Miroff Waffles, who has this massive community built around Call of Duty, crediting Zampella with inspiring an entire generation of gamers and creators. That's a legacy that just transcends quarterly sales reports.
And the most profound insights defining his success. They don't focus on technology or sales, but on integrity and the consumer experience. Casey McDonald, the video games editor at The Guardian, she pinpointed this perfectly.
She did. She noted that Zampella really cared about the player experience. He cared about making games, and he cared about how people felt when they played. That sentiment is key. It was never about imposing a corporate vision. It was about ensuring the person holding the controller was having maximum fluid fun. That integrity is why players followed him from the COD era to the Apex era without a moment's hesitation.
It's really interesting to note that even his former studio, Infinity Ward, the studio still behind Call of Duty paid tribute, they said Zampella will always have a special place in our history and that his legacy of creating iconic, lasting entertainment is immeasurable. The respect is bipartisan, even across these massive corporate divides.
So if we synthesize this incredible turbulent journey from defining the WWII shooter to enduring a public legal battle, establishing a competitive studio with EA, and then building 2 more blockbusters, the entire career is just a case study in innovation and an uncompromising focus on player immersion. This raises an important question. Given the intense multi-decade struggle between creative teams and the financial pressures of major publishers, what enduring lesson does Zampella's career, especially his successful pivot to Respawn, teach us about the ultimate value of creative freedom and developer control over the IP they create?
That is the ultimate question for the business side of the industry, for sure. But for the players, the final idea we want you, the listener, to mull over touches on the immense creative potential that was so suddenly extinguished. We return to Jeff Cayley's incredibly poignant reflection. Cayley wrote that Zampella created some of the most influential games of our time, but he always felt he still had his greatest one ahead of him. So what does this all mean? It means Zampella was a restless innovator, never satisfied with the last great success, always looking for the next genre to break or the next mechanical problem to solve. We mourn not just the iconic entertainment he gave us, but the massive genre-defining work that was lost. What does it truly mean for an innovator's legacy, one defined by constant revolution, to feel unfinished? It's a profound thought that speaks volumes about the creative ambition the world will miss.
Well, this is a very sad story. Okay, one question for you. Why do gamers feel such a strong emotional connection to the worlds Zampella helped create? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.